It was nighttime, but my little brother could not hold it anymore. He could not wait until we reached a bathroom. So we stopped for a few minutes on the Mexico-Queretaro Highway. And that was enough to never be the same again. To change our lives forever. Community, how are you? Good evening. Thank you for coming, for listening. I am very grateful you are here. And I believe you are here for a reason, because tonight's stories are about witches, but very different from one another. One is direct horror, a story that could have happened to anyone. The other is one that will take us to know a family across generations, a family of witches. Believe me, both are very much worth it, and I know they will stay with you long after you finish listening to this episode. Let yourselves go wherever you are, and if you can, close your eyes. Listen with the lights off. Immerse yourselves in the following tales of the night. This story I'm about to tell you did not happen long ago. I was in middle school, but I remember every detail clearly. How I felt, the cold outside, and how hot the air conditioning in my aunt's car felt. Going from freezing you to burning your face. My dad was in Cancun for work, so I stayed home looking after my brother in the apartment where we live, in the Mexico City. He is very calm, and since we were on vacation, I was not worried. We could order food, and I could make breakfast and dinner. We actually enjoyed those days when he left us alone, because we would stay up late watching videos. But that afternoon, everything turned ugly. We had already had a scare earlier because the earthquake alarm went off in the morning, though nothing was felt. And just as the sun was setting, a gas leak forced us to leave the building along with several older residents, some of whom even became ill from the anxiety. The worst part was being told we could not return until an investigation was carried out, because the leak was dangerous. Someone then called my dad. The only thing he could do was ask his sister, my Aunt Lucia, to come pick us up and let us stay with her until he returned. We have no family in the city, nor friends we trust enough to take in both of us together for a whole week, without any prior notice, just like that, out of nowhere. That is why it was the only option. But my Aunt Lucia lives in Queretaro. The poor woman had to leave her house right at that moment so she could arrive to pick us up at 10 o'clock at night, buy us something to eat along the way, and drive through the night without stopping to get home as soon as possible. And yes, everything started as planned. We stopped at a gas station to fill up, and then looked for something to eat at the convenience store. A tasteless sandwich, but one that would help ease the hunger on the road, and some snacks. You know what you eat on the highway, just to be eating something. My aunt asked us 3 times, both when we arrived and when we were buying things and when we were leaving, whether we needed to use the restroom, because there would be no more chances once we were on the road. We are not stopping again, and we answered the same thing all 3 times, that we were fine, for having said no. He tried to hold it, for having said no. He tried to hold it, but he could not, and there were no signs of a town nearby. We were in the middle of a very dark stretch of road. There was nothing but empty land and hills on both sides. It was very cold. My aunt told him to hold on a little longer, but my brother started to cry, so we pulled over. She told me to go with him, but seeing how lonely and dark everything was, she decided to get out of the car too. Since then, I have tried to pinpoint exactly where that place was, but I cannot say precisely. I only have suspicions. I believe there is a large insurance billboard on a hill nearby that is visible from the highway. My brother got out of the car and ran off to find a small bush to shield himself from my aunt's sight. My aunt told me to stay close so he would not trip and fall. There was a moon out. Once your eyes adjusted, you could see better. My brother was going when he shouted that there was an animal nearby, that something had moved. "A snake!" he yelled. I did not believe him, but I walked over. My brother stepped back. He finished and then returned to that spot. He swore something had moved. I do not understand what kind of curiosity drove me, but I moved a large branch that seemed to have been placed there, as if it had been torn off and set down deliberately. I swear to you, community, I swear I would not lie to you. I have no reason to. This story is anonymous, but I swear to you that when I uncovered it and could barely see beneath the bush, something was moving. Something dark, something that looked like two snakes. But as my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I realized what they actually were. Two legs. Two bare legs, like those of a dead person, but moving as if startled at being discovered, twisting like two earthworms writhing up from the soil. I had not even fully understood what I was looking at when I felt a hand on my back pulling me, and with the other hand pulling my brother. It was my aunt, taking us in silence but with urgency toward the car. Without understanding why, I obeyed. I understood the urgency, but something made me look back to try to make sense of it. That was the worst part. I saw a woman walking quickly toward us with a look of fury, baring her teeth. No, she was not walking. It seemed like it, but in reality she was dragging herself at great speed. She appeared to be walking, to be running, but supporting herself with her arms at a speed that was impossible for a woman in that condition. We got in the car and my aunt floored it, cutting through traffic near a semi-truck approaching at high speed on the highway. She did not care. She pushed her little car to whatever the engine could give. I saw her pale. I saw her cry. I asked her what that was and she said nothing. I insisted, but her answer was that she had not seen anything. I asked her why she had pulled us like that, and she went silent and refused to say anything more. My brother was not speaking either. He just stared out the window as if he were not really there. I told my aunt what I had seen in the bushes, what I saw when I looked back as she pulled us away. And she asked me to be quiet. She screamed at me to be quiet. There was silence all the way to her house. Not another word was said about it. Not from my dad either. My brother never mentioned anything strange about what he saw among the bushes. He said it was a snake. That is what he told my dad. He was lucky not to have looked back, not to have seen what I saw. At that time, I promise you, I knew nothing about Mexican horror. I did not watch it. I did not listen to it. But over time I came across accounts where people say that witches remove their legs to transform. And I feel that what I may have witnessed was a witch going back to retrieve them by the side of the highway, where no one would think to look for them. I understand perfectly that the vast majority of people will not believe me. I know that. I will have to carry that for the rest of my life. Having seen something so clearly, having an experience that proves to me that anything is possible, but being unable to convince people that it is true, that is the worst part. But thank you for your attention, for reading, for listening. Hello, Uriel, and greetings to the entire community. My name is Genesis, and I ask that you please not say my last name. A little while ago, I had the opportunity to share with you an experience from my childhood. The reaction from the community moved me deeply. For many years, my family and I stayed silent about what we lived through, out of fear of what others would say, but speaking heals. Today I want to share a story with the respect it deserves, because it is an experience that belonged to my great-grandmother. It marked her forever, and in some way left its imprint on our entire family. My great-grandmother passed away at 98 years old from breast cancer. She had a difficult life, but she also had the blessing of a family that loved her and cared for her until the very end. And she left us many stories, the kind that, when someone tells them well, all others can do is pay attention and learn. She was an excellent storyteller, so I took the liberty of narrating this in the first person, so that you feel as though it is she who is telling it to you. The story is divided into 2 parts, and do not worry, I will send you the second one soon. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for giving me this space. A warm embrace to you, Uriel, and to the entire community. This is the story. I was born in Navojoa, Sonora, in a small village called Gamboa. which at the time was little more than a ranch. 30 or 40 families. And that was all. Everyone knew each other there. I do not have many happy memories of my childhood, not because they faded away, but because the truth is there were almost none. I grew up with a mother the village was afraid of, a woman people avoided naming. She kept a close watch over us, as if the outside world were an enemy. She did not let us go out, did not let us play, did not let us mingle with anyone. The house was everything we knew, and it was everything we were kept busy with. From a very young age, we cleaned, cooked, and did the washing. 3 little girls doing the complete work of the household, as if that were the destiny she had decided for us. Nothing more than cleaning, nothing more than the house. We were 3 sisters. Of our fathers, we knew nothing. Not names, not faces, and certainly not stories. Our mother hated them. She mentioned them with a cold fury, as if speaking of them dirtied her mouth. There was another child, a boy, and almost nothing was ever said about that. All I know is that when my mother learned during the birth that it was a boy, she abandoned him. She said she had given him away, but I always felt there was something strange there, something that was never fully said. Over the years, I asked myself many times why she brought us into the world, whether it was to have hands to serve her and nothing more, or to avoid being alone. But I never knew the answer. And no, she was not a good woman. She gave us shelter and food, but she was never a real mother. Not the kind who gives affection, who nurtures. To us, she was the owner of the house, the person we worked for. She was stocky, short, with very dark skin. She always dressed in black, long dresses that covered everything from her neck to her feet. Her hair was never visible. She always wore a rebozo or something that covered her head and shoulders. When she walked through the village, people would lower their gaze, and that was not normal. You could feel it. She was Yoreme, indigenous Yoreme, like nearly everyone in the area. But she looked down on her own people. She did not follow what the village respected. What she followed was something else entirely. And with time I came to understand that she was involved in forbidden things. That is what the elders said when they thought we were not listening. We, on the other hand, looked nothing like her. We were tall, very pale, light-eyed, and with blonde hair. The village even murmured that we were not her daughters, that a woman like her could not give birth to girls like us. Some said she had stolen us. We never confirmed it. But with the years, that doubt did settle inside us and lived there. My mother never showed us affection. Never. Not a hug. Never a kind word. But she always made sure we were impeccable, well-dressed, even though we rarely went out. She herself sewed our long skirts and wrapped our rebozos around us. It was as if she wanted us to look a certain way, as if that were part of something. I, being the oldest, often had to accompany her. Things I did not understand, and it was always the same. At the end, she would force me to promise that by dawn, I would not remember anything. She said it with such certainty that for years, I doubted my own mind. I did not know whether the memories that haunted me were real, or whether I had made them up. But there was one routine that was real, because no one could take it from us. Every morning we went to the river. Going there was the only thing that resembled freedom. There we washed clothes, gathered water, bathed, and we also played, even if just a little. A moment to feel like children, a moment to laugh quietly, to play, just that. To pretend we were living a normal life. And it was right there, at the river, that something happened that shattered us. That day, when we were already about to head back, my younger sister, Esther, asked us to stay a little longer, and that was not allowed. My mother had a rule: never separate. Never, ever. So I told her no. I told her we would be punished if we came back without her, but Esther burst into tears. She threw a fit. She clung to the river as if she did not want to leave. as if she somehow knew, as if she knew that this small moment of calm was the last she had left. I do not know why I gave in. Maybe out of exhaustion, maybe because I saw her so desperate. I told Patricia, my other sister, that we should go drop off the laundry at home and come right back. The walk was about 10 minutes, so we left her there and ran, truly ran. And when we returned, no more than 20 minutes had passed. But those 20 minutes were enough. We found Esther at the edge of the river. She was curled up in a ball, beaten. She did not react when she saw us. The ground around her was disturbed, and she had a vacant stare, as if she had gone away on the inside and only her body had remained. Patricia and I understood immediately that something bad had happened, something very bad. Together we got her into the water, washed her wounds as best we could, with desperation, as if the river could carry away what was hurting her. We asked her over and over, what happened? Who was it? Where did they come from? And Esther did not answer. She did not cry. She did not scream. She did not say a word. We went back home carrying a fear I cannot put into words. It was not only fear of my mother's punishment. It was something else. It was the feeling that the world out there was as cruel as she had always said, as we had never fully believed. Esther walked between us, held up as if she might fall apart. When we were almost at the house, she finally said something, very quietly, as if she were ashamed, as if she herself were not sure of what she was saying. It was a pig, she said. Patricia and I stopped dead in our tracks. I turned to look at her. What did you say, Esther? But she did not want to say anything more. She doubled over from her stomach and vomited right there, as if her body wanted to expel the memory. And from that day on, Esther changed. My mother never asked what happened. She never brought up the subject, not even Esther's bruises. But the following day she began accompanying us to the river. She no longer let us go alone. She covered us in black veils before we left the house and hurried us along, as if she were in a rush to hide something. And as for me, from that moment on, sleep became difficult. There are things one tries to forget, but they stay lodged in the memory, like words carved in stone. And the worst part was not only what happened to Esther. The worst part was hearing that phrase, it was a pig, and feeling that somehow, in that house, nothing was normal. That perhaps the danger did not come only from outside. After what happened to Esther, nothing ever felt the same in that house again. She kept walking, eating, obeying, but she was no longer really there. It was as if something had been left behind at the river. Sometimes she would stare at a fixed point for hours. Other times she would wake up screaming in the middle of the night. But when we ran to see her, she remembered nothing. My mother never spoke about it. She never asked about anything. But from that point on, she began to watch over us more closely, as if she feared something was slipping out of her control. And it was shortly after that when she began to look at me differently. I was 11 years old when my mother said there was something unusual about me. She did not say it with concern, but as if she had found a useful tool. "You have something," she told me one night, "and we must learn how to use it." I did not understand what she meant until she forced me to lay my hands on a woman from the village. It was a woman who was complaining of a sharp pain in her arm. My mother told me not to think, just to touch. And when I did, I felt something. My body grew warm all at once, but not like a fever. It was a different kind of heat, deep, as if it were coming from within. A vibration started in my arms and traveled down to my hands. The woman stopped complaining almost immediately. She said the pain was leaving her. I was frightened. I wanted to pull away, but my mother held my wrists firmly. "Do not let go," she said. When the woman left, grateful and confused, I felt drained, as if something had been taken from me, or worse, as if something had stayed inside me. Over time, it happened more and more, and my mother began bringing people to the house. People with pains, with illnesses, with things doctors could not explain. I did not understand how it worked. I only knew that when I touched them, I could feel their pain enter me. And even though they left relieved, I was left feeling worse. It never fully went away. Something was accumulating inside me. My mother already had a reputation in the village. People came to her for works, for favors, for things not spoken aloud. But when word spread that I could ease pain, everything spiraled out of control. People began arriving from other places. Even neighbors who had previously avoided us were now knocking at the door. "Did God send you?" they would say to me. I would nod because I did not know what else to do. I never felt sent by anyone. In my home, we did not speak of God. There were no saints, no prayers, no crosses, only symbols, strange words, and things that were not to be touched. My mother never corrected them for believing I was something divine. It served her purposes. Over the years, I began to fade. I became irritable, sad. I slept poorly. I dreamed things I did not understand. Sometimes I would wake up with my hands burning, as if I had been touching something in my sleep. And then, without realizing it, I grew up. I became a young woman. Not because I sought it out or because it interested me. It simply happened. And with that, the way people looked at me changed. Men no longer lowered their voices when they saw me. They smiled too much. They got too close. And it was then that my mother stopped forcing me to use my gift. Not to protect me, but because now she wanted me for something else. Marriage proposals began to arrive. Offers, promises of money, of land, of protection. I was not a person to them. I was a transaction. My mother never accepted any of them. She only hid me more, watched over me more. And I began to grow weary. For the first time, I felt hatred, an intense hatred that frightened me to feel, because it resembled hers too closely. I wanted to go out, to walk through the village, to get my feet dirty, to talk to someone without feeling like I was doing something forbidden. My mother never celebrated our birthdays. For us, turning another year older meant nothing. It was just another day. And that was all. The only person who broke that rule was Doña Pilar. Our neighbor was a small elderly woman with a permanent smile and tired little eyes. She was the only person in the village who was not afraid of my mother. They hated each other in silence, but Pilar always found a way to make us feel human. Every year she left freshly baked bread at the door. She never stayed to hand it over. She just left it there. But my mother would not let us eat it. Even so, that bread was the only thing that made us feel that someone was thinking of us. And it was through her that I came to know Pancho, her grandson. I would see him from the window. He always arrived on horseback. He was not from the village. He brought things for his grandmother. When Pilar's health began to decline, Pancho started visiting her more often. One day I saw them sitting in the courtyard having coffee. Pilar was laughing. Pancho was listening to her with care. The scene was so peaceful, it seemed impossible in our world. That same day, as we were returning from the river, Pancho came over to help us with the water buckets. He did not get to touch anything. My mother's voice stopped him cold. A short, sharp no, and Pancho froze. Pilar called him over immediately. Before going back inside, I looked at Pilar. She smiled at me, a smile that felt like a goodbye. The next day I turned 15, and as always, no one said a word. But when I stepped out into the courtyard, I saw the usual basket, freshly made bread, still warm. I knew that if my mother saw it, she would throw it away. Pancho was leaning against the fence. He was smiling. Pilar greeted me from her doorway. And something in me, at that moment, broke. I went inside with the basket, called my sisters, gave them the bread, and told them to eat it. I did not ask them. I ordered them. My mother came out of her room, looked at us. I looked back at her, and I bit into the bread. The silence was awful. The bread tasted like something I had never tasted before, as if it were giving me something back that had been lost. My mother held my gaze, and for the first time I saw fear in her eyes. That night, I did not sleep. The house creaked. The wind made strange sounds, and in the early hours of the morning, I heard chanting. It was coming from the courtyard. I went to the window. There was a bonfire, and the flames moved strangely. And my mother was there, with her back to me. Her posture was not normal. I lowered my gaze and saw her legs. They were not feet. I will not explain further. I will only say that I finally understood that my mother did not only do dark things, my mother was not entirely human. And I knew with a certainty that froze my blood that what happened to Esther was never an accident. After that night, I knew I could not stay. It was not a brave decision. It was a need, like when the body reacts before the mind understands. Every corner of the house began to feel foreign, as if it no longer recognized me, as if something were expelling me or reclaiming me. The following morning, Pancho arrived knocking urgently at the door. Not the knock of a visitor, the knock of someone who had come to save something. "Your mother went up into the hills," he told me in a low voice. "I saw her leave a little while ago." But that did not put me at ease. Quite the opposite. Pancho told me that Doña Pilar was very ill, that she could no longer be left alone, and that they were leaving. That very morning they would leave for Nayarit. "Come with us," he said. "There is no time to think about it. Just come." My sisters were standing behind me, quiet, trembling. I looked at them, waiting for them to say something, anything. But they did not. "Are you going to go see Mother?" Esther said, her gaze fixed on the floor. "We are safe here," said Patricia, though her voice sounded hollow. "We have always been here. It is the only thing we know." I understood then that fear had already taken up residence inside them, that it was not something I could tear out of them. And then Patricia said, "You go. He looks at you differently." I felt something break inside me. I hugged them. I promised I would come back for them. I did not know how or when, but I made the promise anyway, because it was the only thing I could give them. A promise. I left without looking back. I ran, following Pancho's path. Every step away from the house hurt, as if I were leaving pieces of myself scattered on the ground. And then I heard the whistle. That whistle my mother made when she was about to arrive. Long, clear, impossible to mistake. It was coming from the hills. The wind changed direction, and for a moment I felt she was calling my name. Not with her voice, but inside my head. When we reached Doña Pilar's house, Pancho stopped dead. His eyes opened wider than usual and he told me not to turn around. But I turned around. My mother was there, in the middle of the path, where just seconds before there had been no one. Her black dress moved in the wind. The veil covered her face, but something beneath it moved in a way that did not correspond to a human face. "You still do not understand who you are," she said, "and what you carry inside you." She extended her hand toward me. I felt a pulling in my chest, as if something wanted to come out. The same heat, the same vibration, but this time it came accompanied by fear, by a great deal of fear. I took just one step, only one, and still I felt the distance between us disappear. The dogs began to howl. The wind rose with force. Doña Pilar came out of her house and planted herself between us. "Go away from here," she said. "You are not taking her." My mother stopped. Doña Pilar told her she did not belong to her. Not entirely. Not yet. My mother tilted her head in a threatening manner and said something I will always remember. I will come back for my blood. And the path was empty, as if she had never been there. Doña Pilar placed her hand on my chest, where the fire had been burning. Now there was only a trembling heartbeat. You are going to go far away, she told me, but you are marked. I did not ask her anything. There was no strength left to ask. I left with Pancho that same day. I slept during the journey, a deep sleep, without dreams, as if my mind had finally let something go, at last. I never saw my sisters again. I never went back to Gamboa. And even today, after so much time, one thing becomes clear to me with certainty. My mother is still alive. My mother is still waiting.